Welcome to Team Jesus PH. You're watching Bible 101. And in this video, we are going to study or have a quick overview of the whole New Testament. In our previous video, pinag-aralan natin ng Old Testament. You can check the link in the description box below. At ngayon naman, pag-aralan natin very quickly ang New Testament, kahit summary lang. So the New Testament of the Christian Bible, it falls into 5 general categories. At sinimulan ang New Testament ng Gospel books, which are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. At pare-pareho lang ang message sa 4 na Gospel books na to. It's all about the story and life of Jesus, His ministry here on earth. It's all about His death, His ascension, kung paano siya nabuhay muli, paano siya nag-resurrect, paano siya bumalik sa langit, His ascension and resurrection. So, dito natin mapag-aaralan lahat sa Gospel books. Now, since pare-pareho lang yung message ng Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, may konting difference lang sa style ng writing and sa emphasis, no? Like in the book of Matthew, si Jesus, He was presented to us as the Son of David. Pero sa Gospel naman ni Mark, ang focus doon is presenting the Lord as a suffering servant. And in the Gospel of Luke, we can see Jesus as the perfect man who is perfectly sinless. He was God incarnate. And then in the Gospel of John, pinresent naman si Jesus sa atin as God. He is truly God. And then in the next category of the New Testament, yung Acts of the Apostles, is actually a continuation ng Gospel books. Specifically ng Gospel ni Luke dahil sila ang parehong writer ng Gospel of Luke at ng Book of Acts. At ang Acts of the Apostles is actually about the history ng early church, kung ano ang nangyari after the Gospel books. When Jesus died, He rose again, and then He came back to heaven. Ano yung nangyari sa mga disciples after that? So, dito natin yun malalaman sa history ng early church. Kung ano ang ginawa ng disciples ni Jesus, kung paano nag-spread ang gospel, kung paano nabuo ang early Christian church. So, basically, this book is a continuation of the gospel books. Now, let's go to the Pauline epistles. Ito ang mga sinulat na letters ni Paul. Actually, majority talaga ng New Testament was written by the Apostle Paul. So, itong Pauline epistles, yung unang part, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, pati na rin ang 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Ito ay mga letters ni Paul sa iba't ibang Christian churches. So, group of Christians ang kanyang sinusulatan dito. Ang Romans, ang focus niyan, it's all about what the gospel is. Pinresent ni Paul once again sa mga taga-Rome ang gospel. And then sa 1st and 2nd Corinthians, may mga concerns and questions ang mga taga-Corinth, yung nasa church ng Corinth, na sinagot ni Paul. And then sa Book of Galatians naman, in-explain ni Paul how the gospel works para sa mga Gentiles. Kasi tingin ng mga Jews or Israelites before na ang salvation ay para sa kanila lang. But the Lord welcomed in other nations to be saved. So, in-explain ni Paul dito sa Galatians how the gospel works para sa mga Gentiles or hindi mga Israelites. And then in the book of Ephesians, dito naman shinare ni Paul, ang topic dito is how a church of Christ should look or act. So, specific commandments, mga reminders from Paul tungkol sa isang Christian church, mababasa natin dito. And then in the book of Philippians, sinulat ito ni Paul while he was in prison. And he talks about rejoicing in Christ. Ang keyword ng book na to is actually joy or rejoice. And interestingly, nasa kulungan pa siya nung sinulat niya to, which really tells us how we can rejoice in the Lord no matter what our circumstances are. And then the next book is the Book of Colossians. So, summary nito is how to live with the mind of Christ. So, you can read this book. And then in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians naman, ang isang highlight or main highlight nitong book na to is about the return of Jesus. Kung paano mag-ready or paano maghintay sa soon coming niyan. So, dito sa 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, it talks about the return of Jesus and how can we prepare. Now, dito tayo sa Pauline Epistles 2. Bakit may part 2? Kasi kanina, yung unang part ng letters ni Paul sa Romans hanggang sa 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, sulat niya yun sa group of people, sa mga churches. But this time, itong part 2, hindi na siya sa group of people or sa isang church, pero sa isang church leader. So, in 1st and 2nd Timothy, sinulatan ni Paul si Timothy, which is a young leader na minimentor niya. Nagbigay siya ng instructions kay Timothy on how to run the church. And then, the next book, Titus naman, like what he did kay Timothy, nagbigay si Paul ng instructions kay Titus on how to run or lead the church. And then the Book of Philemon, interestingly, meron ditong story, maikli lang tong book na to, and it's a story kung saan merong slave, yung isang Christian, na tumakas siya or he ran away from his owner, pero naging Christian din itong slave na to. So, Paul talks to Philemon para tanggapin niya ulit yung slave niya na naging Christian na. So, this is a very interesting book. So, itong mga writings ni Paul, yung unang part, they were named after the churches, kung sino yung sinulatan niya. And then the second part, they were named after the church leaders na sinulatan niya rin. Now, let's go to the last category ng New Testament, which is yung general epistles. At ito yung mga epistles or letters na sinulat ng iba pang mga disciples ni Jesus, bukod kay Paul. Like John, like James, like Peter. So, nandito ang Book of Hebrews, where it talks about Jesus as our high priest. At meron ding lessons dito about the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. And the Book of Hebrews actually hindi na-reveal sa atin kung sino ang siguradong writer nito. May mga hula or guesses ang maraming mga Christians, but we can't really be sure. The next book, the Book of James, was written by James, and it's all about how the Christian faith works. It's all about faith. Yan ang keyword ng book ni James. Ang 1st and 2nd Peter naman was written by Peter, and it talks about the sufferings na may experience ng mga Christians at kung paano tayo dapat magtiis in the midst of sufferings, dahil one day, sufferings will end and everything will be perfect in the arms of the Lord. Now, here in 1st and 2nd and 3rd John, ang topic dito or ang highlight or summary ng books na sinulat or letters na sinulat ni John is about love. The love of Christians para sa isa't isa. And it also talks about obedience. Of course, obedience is very important. And then the next letter or epistle is Jude. The book of Jude, it's a warning, focused on warning against false teachings. And then the last book is the Book of Revelation, one of my favorite. Is an apocalyptic book dahil makikita natin dito ang mangyayari sa end times. But also, this is simply a letter to a group of churches. Mga nasulat ito na letter para sa iba't ibang churches, 7 churches at that time. So it's a grand vision, no? Napakagandang vision ng muling pagbabalik ng Panginoong Jesus, which is something na nilulook forward nating lahat. So that's what the New Testament is all about. Very short summary ng bawat books, and I hope naging interesado na naman tayo to study the Bible more, especially read not just the Old Testament but also the New Testament, and read the Bible from cover to cover. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I hope to see you again in the next video.